Welcome to the Develop Great Managers podcast, where you can learn directly from the experts. I'm Dale Ferrario, your host. For more information and valuable insights, go to developgreatmanagers.com. Now, on to the show. I'm really happy to have Anil Virmani back on the show today. This week, we'll be talking about Anil's career path, how he got to where he is. As a quick refresher, Anil is an experienced technology executive, most recently with Adara. Anil has had the opportunity to work at some great companies, including VMware, Coraid, Juniper Networks, Stratus Computers, HP, and Wipro. I got to know Anil while at Juniper. He was one of the seasoned leaders that I had the opportunity to work with while we were transforming the way JunOS was built and tested. As a teaser, Anil started off preparing to be a pilot. Hear how he stepped away from that, got himself into one of the most prestigious universities in India, and navigated a path to where he is today. I know you'll enjoy this interview.
All right.
Hey, Anil, welcome back to the show. I'm so happy to have you on the show again. Last time was so much fun around all the questions that we talked through. This time it'll be about your career journey. How did you get to where you are, and what were some of those decisions along the way? So welcome back.
Thank you, Dale. I really enjoyed the first segment, and I'm really thrilled and happy to share my career journey and experiences with the listeners, because I believe that it's the experiences of life which shapes you and brings you where you are today. So let me start with the time when I was a young teenager in India. I was 17-year-old and I wanted to become a fighter pilot.
There you go. So this is exactly why I love this conversation, because the things we thought we were going to do don't always turn out to be the things we're doing. Okay.
Exactly, right? My grandparents pushed me a little bit to look at the defense services as a career too. And I said, fine. And I gave the exams and I got through and I joined the National Defense Academy.
Oh, wow.
And I was there for about 1.5 years. And in that time, I realized it's not for me.
So when you say a little bit more about even the schooling, do you prepare yourself through your schooling to get into that career? Yeah, okay.
So yeah, you have to prepare a little bit. There are exams and stuff which you have to take. And so I prepared, not too much, but I think I was a smart kid.
So now you're a year and a half into it. Is that what you said? And you're thinking, this is not it.
Yeah, I was a year into it, and I said, I'm not enjoying it. This place is too structured, right? And you do what you're told to do. And I was just feeling completely out of place there. So I decided to quit, and that was a tough decision for me. It took me about 9 months to make that decision in my mind.
Wow.
And but I think it was the right decision. So I came out and I was on the street, right? Now what?
I'm not qualified for anything else, right?
Exactly, right? You kind of feel brainwashed, and it's a tough training, right? And so I worked very hard to get through the main engineering entrance exam. I lost about a couple of years in that shuffle, right? And finally got lucky and got through the Indian Institute of Technology entrance exam, which are the premier institutions in India, and joined the IIT at Varanasi, joined electrical engineering. And by that time, I had a good amount of, I had gotten my confidence back, and I could see that if I work hard, I could do well. And there was this new branch of science called computer science and engineering, which was the second year in my college. And I worked really hard, and I taught my batch of 125 people, students, right? And I got a brand change into computer science. The top three to five folks get a transition to computer science.
No, because otherwise you need to finish the degree that you're in. Is
exactly.
That right? Yeah.
And I was really happy. And those are the times when we used to code using punch cards. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
There was this
Don't
huge,
drop that pile of cards or you're in deep trouble.
don't, right? That hollered code. And I knew how to read it. And there was this big shelf, right, which was 28K of memory, right?
I think most of the
Shows how
listeners
old
have,
I am, Dale.
most of the listeners have never even seen a punch card, and you
No.
used to have to draw like a line on them so that if they ever got out of order, you could.
Anyway, I could finally graduate out, and I joined a company, one of the best companies out there, Wipro Technologies, in Bangalore, in their R&D division. And we used to port Unix without the source code, just looking at the drivers and putting no ops in assembly and patching code onto Intel 86 servers, right? And it was crazy, but I was enjoying the job. I was just fresh out of school.
But how many years did you stay at Wipro?
Just a couple of years.
Couple years, yeah.
And then I said, no, this is not working for me. I want source code access. How do I get access? I have to go to the valley. So I landed up in the valley.
Oh man! And you went to a company that was doing operating systems. Where did you go from there?
Yeah, I was mostly working on operating systems. Right?
Yeah.
And I joined a company, SCL America, which was sending folks for projects to US, right? And I learned about it from one of my close friends, and he said, "Yeah, come over. You want source code access? Come over." So I landed out here early 90s, and my first job was at HP in Building 47, where the spaceship is there right now. The Apple spaceship.
And you went to work there as a consultant.
I went to work there as a consultant for 2 years, and I got to see Unix source code, and I was so excited.
And you were in their server department?
I was in the server division. And then there was this company, Stratus Computers, which was building fault-tolerant systems, and I joined them as a permanent employee, my first permanent assignment in this country. And I was really excited because as an immigrant, you're always worried about green card and the visa issues. So got all that done in this company, right? And just enjoyed the technology. We were building systems which used to stay up 5.9 availability, right, which is roughly about 5 minutes of downtime every year. And they were powering all the financial, like New York stock exchanges and Bombay stock exchanges, and just name it, right? Amazing company. And I learned a lot from my mentors. I was there for 7 years. Towards the end of the tenure, my boss, who was my mentor, really respect him, taught me a lot. He said, "Anil, you are really tenacious." So what do you mean? Hey, you get the job done. Why don't you become a manager of your group?
So this was your introduction to, would you like to be a manager? Huh?
Yeah, I call it the transition to the dark side.
Yeah, we used to say you get a lobotomy before you can go into
exactly. That's what one of my peers, senior managers, told me. Welcome. It's a lobotomy. So that
you were working on some really deep technical stuff at the time. I mean, 5.9s at that time. Now, when we talk about services, we expect them to never go down. 5.9s at that time was a huge challenge.
Big challenge. Yeah. So it was amazing, right? I still remember the transition. There was this mentor who had like 20 plus years of experience, suddenly started working for me. And hey, that was weird, right? How do you even interact with this?
So this was a more senior person working for you as a brand new manager.
Exactly, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I was like, what? Less than 30 years old, right? And this guy was. So I remember that, but I had great respect for him.
So I actually just talk about that for a minute, because I had a very similar experience. So how did that work out, and how did you end up making it feel comfortable for both of you?
I think it's just the level of respect you have for the individual, right? And you have to treat them accordingly. That really didn't change our relationship. So the trick is that when you become a new manager, you're kind of lost, right? You tend to micromanage or you tend to worry a lot. I think it's the first thing you have to learn is how do you deal with different team members in a different way, right? So
Right.
you manage
Right.
each person differently, right? So you don't really have to manage these senior guys, right? Maybe if somebody is very junior, they need more direction from you, right? Other than that, these are just conversations you have with them, right? So
I
it was
think it's
very uncomfortable in the beginning.
Yeah, I think it's really good because just give you quickly a similar experience I
Uh-huh.
had. I was at Sun Microsystems and
Yeah.
I ended up taking over a small team. It was one of my first management experiences, and I had a guy who was on the POSIX 1003.2 standards committee, and
Uh-huh.
he was one of the top guys. And he, like you know, he had probably 30 years of industry experience, and I had probably 8 years of
Exactly. It's
and
intimidating, right?
and you look at him and you realize like you know so much more than I do. It's not even close. But slowly you realize there's some things that you can do to help that person, and you find your spot. I'm not going to tell them how to do standards compliance. I'm not going to tell them which options should be in the ls command. He could figure all that out with his friends, right? But I could help him in some way to make sure that we were doing the right thing within the company to support the effort. So that was for me similar to you. I think you realize you don't have to micromanage that person. First of all, you can't, but you
No,
start to figure out what value can I add in helping
exactly.
that person be successful. That's great.
No, you're
Good.
you're absolutely right. And I think it's important to look at management as a different job profile.
Yeah.
I know that most of the engineers we kind of make them managers overnight, right? Because that's the natural growth path. But becoming a manager needs some different skill sets as well.
Yeah.
So the sooner you realize it, the better.
Yeah. And the
Otherwise,
better
you
you can
struggle
be at
for
your job, right? Then because then, like we talked about in the last interview, a lot of your time is helping them to be successful. And so when you
it.
realize that, now you can do
You
your
have to
job.
learn the new capabilities which are
Yeah.
expected of you,
Yeah.
and things just don't happen unless you go after it.
Yeah. All right. So sorry to take us off track, but I thought that
No
was
worries.
really a good point. So now
No
you're
worries.
now where did you go next?
So Stratus got acquired by Lucent, and I was done. And the same friend who had kind of facilitated my coming over to the US, he had joined Juniper pre-IPO, and the stock was jumping by $20 every day. I said, "Wow, this is amazing." So he said, "Why don't you come over?" I said, okay.
So you came over there as a manager now.
Yeah, so Juniper was interesting at that time. It was post IPO, $100 million revenue, and about less than 100 engineers, very small.
Hmm.
And yeah, I thought I'll be a millionaire in 1 year. So let's go there. And I was hired to run their main group, which is the JunOS operating system group.
Hmm.
They gave me one engineer to start with.
There you go.
Employee number 7, multimillionaire, had written all the code by himself. Now, how do you build a team? I said, okay.
Oh, that must have been a crazy time.
Crazy time. And the company was scaling like crazy. And this was, anyway, my millions went down the drain because by the time I vested in 2001, the dot-com bust happened.
Oh yeah.
That's a different story.
Yeah.
But it was an amazing run. I built out their entire kernel team. I injected all the new high availability technology, which I had learned from Stratus, into Juniper routers. Scaled the team from one engineer to about 100 kernel engineers in a span of 6 years.
Wow.
We went from, we were scaling so rapidly because the adoption of internet, right? The routers just flying off the shelf. Our product was much better than Cisco, which was the incumbent. And I remember that we had the software mainline and we were committing code. Went from 100 engineers, Dale, to about 2,000 engineers, right? 100 million to $2 billion revenue in about 3 to 4 years. And the scale was so intense, right? And
Crazy.
that was the time when I learned a lot, right? How do you build teams? I started the India operations in Juniper with one of my colleagues. That was a great experience. How do you acquire a company? We acquired a company in Israel and got exposed to different cultures, right? How do you scale development, right? And that's where our paths crossed. If you remember, you
I
were
totally remember that. Yeah, that was interesting because I think every company goes through every company that goes through any kind of significant growth, whatever
Yes.
you built originally is probably no longer fit for purpose, right?
Oh,
You outgrew, the technology or the architecture and the processes for sure. And you have to
completely.
rethink them. Yeah, that's when we got to
Yeah,
need
that's
to
where we
come
needed your expertise to solve that
in.
problem. Dale, it was a hard problem. Anyways, I wanted to do something different, so I just gave up my kernel team, right? And I think that is a team which ended up reporting to you. And I completely transitioned into the business unit because I wanted to be close to the customers and really feel the pressure of running a P&L.
Yep.
And that was pretty amazing. I had a team of about 300 people, geo dispersed, and responsibility for more than $1 billion of business. And that was some pressure.
Yeah.
Learning to deal with the stress and customers who are not very happy. There'll always be, when you're running a business of that scale, always 10% customers will not be super happy, and
That's right.
10% means a lot.
And these are huge customers too. They're the ones
AT&T,
running the internet.
yeah,
They're
exactly, right. AT&T,
Verizon,
Verizon,
Deutsche Telekom. They're huge companies.
huge companies, right? And that's so there was a moment where I was a brand new VP and I didn't even know what leadership is about, right? And we used to make fun of our GM who always wanted to coach us. She was much senior than us, and but I went through some tough experiences, right? Like I had a lot of attrition in my India team and such. So that was a turning point in my life. I had a great boss who sponsored an exec coach for me, and I did a boot. That was just for 3 months, but I extended her to a year, and I was really hungry to learn leadership. And um, and I said, "Hey, I want to be the best leader on the planet." At that point, which was, looking back, was so naive, right? I can never meet that goal. You were talking about goals
That was a
earlier.
big audacious goal you put out there, though.
So I made leadership my second passion
Yeah.
after technology, and I changed a lot, right? And just I want to share a little bit tidbit out of that. I built my leadership philosophy with my team, which I refined over the years, and that has helped me a lot in terms of defining my value system, right? So I feel that my job is to build an environment where people can do their best job, right? And attributes like excellence, passion, teamwork, collaboration, um, improving and learning every day, right? Uh, I'm really passionate about mentoring and coaching people. Never let a customer down. I really believe in that, even a very small customer, right? And then the moral courage to do the hard, tough things which are right. Making the right calls, doing the right thing is always difficult. So that is my basic leadership philosophy. And I became all about people, as I was mentioning in the earlier discussion with you today.
And that's interesting because that really really hit you as Juniper became big and the team became big and the challenges of remote management became big. It really sounds like it hit you, and
It
you had to
really,
kind of go back and retrench and flush out maybe what your leadership style
yeah.
would
And I
be.
was thinking, oh, do I like this Dale guy?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I have to build a great relationship with him. I better go and have a one-on-one with him.
And I think I missed a little bit of that early days because I met you and you were well on your way to developing all these skills, and
Yeah.
it shows. And so then you ended up leaving Juniper.
Yeah, I wanted to experience a small company, Dale. I wanted
Yeah.
to do a
So talk
startup.
about that.
Yeah, most of my peers had left, Juniper, and they were all in startups. And I said, "Oh, I'm missing something.
Hmm.
I better do something. I better join a startup." So, and I was in Juniper for 12 years, and I was getting a little bit tired. It was a tiring job, and I wanted a new injection of energy. Um, so I found this company, Coraid, and it was in a very hot space at that time. This was, I think, 2012. Storage was really hot, right? It
Hmm.
was all about data and how do you store data. So I joined this company, and it was an amazing experience. I was there for a couple of years, and in startups, when you join as a very confident leader, you can make changes very fast.
Well, and you had a chance to bring in your management style, your management philosophy, and
Exactly.
implement this with a new team, right? Or with a different team.
Yeah, and then that was the cusp, right, where things were changing. We were moving from waterfall frameworks to agile.
Mm,
Then the world was slowly moving towards the cloud technologies. AWS was coming in with a vengeance, right? So a lot of shifts were happening in technology um, around that time frame. So, and during that time frame, when I was interacting with customers, I came in touch with this really cool technology called VMware, right? Amazing company, and I'm a kernel engineer, right? Just thinking about, just looking at what they created, like you can have multiple machines on a single hardware, a single machine, right? And this is a virtual machine, and this can move around anywhere uh, with a click of a button and automagically, right? I was really impressed by that technology,
yeah.
and it became my dream job, Dale. And I remember I contacted you in VMware. You were
Yeah.
already you
I
were
had been
always
lucky
ahead of
enough to
me,
get
Dale.
there. Yeah. And I had
You
the
were
same,
always ahead
actually,
of me.
I really had the same feeling too, which is like the technology is amazing. The fact that you could actually move running software from one place to another. I mean, it did stop for a small
Unbelievable.
amount of time, but it's unbelievable. The things you can do with virtual ports for security and networking, yeah, really amazing. So I did the same
Amazing.
thing. I was just amazed at what that company was doing and wanted to be a part of it. But
Yeah,
you
so
found your, but you
I
found your
called you
way.
up. I called you up. I remember that. And the opportunity came up, and it was amazing. And this time it was another huge 300, 400 people team, geo dispersed. And this time I had a team in China. So learned a lot about Chinese culture, dealing with people, right, in that country. And I was and my team was a little different. It was all about customers and customer escalations and building features on vCenter. So interacted with a lot with customers, and I could see the movement to the public cloud
Yeah.
vividly at that point. And people were worried about security, but they were like, AWS was coming in, and um, things were completely moving towards 100% automation. And but that technology was so amazing, right? Just
Yeah.
looking at how you can stand up a cloud using everything software is defined, as you said, Dale. Networking, storage, and compute.
Yeah. So
And
then
I just soaked it in. I
I
just
know.
soaked it in.
I think we've been so lucky in the places that we've been, just to
Amazing.
see that evolution from the days when you couldn't get access to source code for an operating system through
Yeah,
to virtualizing everything,
everything.
spinning these things up in a cloud. And now, it's go to AWS or go to Google and spin these things up and off you go. And you have a virtual machine running and you can deploy things, and unbelievable. But you made at least one more change after that. So you left VMware.
Yeah, so VMware was amazing, and I really love the culture of that company. So I'm a big culture kind of a guy, right?
Yeah.
And so so this time I said, oh, AI and ML and data science. I have no clue about it. And that technology is becoming pretty integral, right? So I wanted to learn that. So I came across this very intellectual, brilliant founder from Stanford, and they were running a data co-op. This was Adara, right? And monetizing data and building models to uh, predict high value travelers and target them in terms of providing more intelligence, or just the system knows that, hey, Dale is a high value traveler, right? And how do we provide services to him, right? And that was our main strategy, right? It
Interesting.
was all about data, data engineering, data science, modeling, analytics. Completely new.
Yeah.
I just loved it.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think, I can see it. I can see you light up when you talk about new areas of technology because it's so intriguing. Uh, the people that come in and have the background and training and the kinds of things they're starting to be able to do. I'm 100% with you. I don't work in a data science company, but my daughter-in-law does. And I spend more time talking to her about what do you actually do and how do you do this? And I've never worked in an IoT company, but I spend time with people who are just trying to understand the technology and where it can be used. It's amazing. So.
It's amazing. And I got this opportunity to just modernize their entire stack. And we did a en masse migration to GCP.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Imagining that, right? Just think about it, right? When we started chatting, we were talking about this 128K big Almera, right? And here you are in this new world. What it took about how many years? Maybe 30 years. And everything is automated. And look at how BigQuery, which is a data warehouse by Google, the way it works, you fire a query, automatically it'll spin up thousands of CPUs for you.
Yeah.
And shard the data on hundreds of drives, right? And the query, which used to take 4 hours to complete in the old box, which you replaced with BigQuery, right, completes in 10 seconds. And you don't even know what's happening under the hood.
Yeah.
So just look at where the technology is, right? And where we have come, right? We are talking about data science obsoleting coding, right? And hey, it's so exciting.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking forward to
whatever comes next,
to learn.
right? Yeah. Well, I think you're right. I think the things we worried about and the time it took to build, like you mentioned earlier too, moving from waterfall to agile, more, and the ability to deliver new capabilities so much more quickly. And now you've got access to almost unlimited compute capacity and networking capacity, and you're running in TensorFlow to do
Exactly.
It's just things that were so hard before are just there and available and accessible to anybody. So pretty amazing time.
What's happening, right, with this pandemic and education over internet, and
Yep.
Technology is in the forefront of everything, contact tracing, and I'm sure the vaccine production and everything. So it's pretty amazing where we are in this modern world, and there's still so much to discover in the future.
I don't think it's slowing down. I think it's speeding up.
Anyway, that was my journey. I hope you found it interesting and not very boring.
Well, I hope the listeners do. I find it interesting always because, I always think, why did I not spend the time when you and I were together asking you more about your background? Like I did. I knew you from Juniper. I knew you from VMware, but I didn't know that you started out thinking maybe you were going to be a pilot, and and the decisions you make along the way. And some of those are unexpected, and you made your own opportunities. You look for that chance to get back into the right university so that you could become, and then you excelled to the top of that university to get into computer science. And then you found a way to get to the US to get that source code. I think, there's opportunities that come up because somebody calls you, but you take advantage of those opportunities.
Exactly. So you have to seize the opportunities, and you never know where life is going to take you. I never thought I'll be in this country just talking to you.
Through Zoom.
Through Zoom.
Well, thank you, Anil. That was great. And once this pandemic is over, we'll have to get together and hang out. This was really, really great.
And thank you for the opportunity. I really enjoyed it. Sharing
that was fun
with you and the listeners. Bye, Dave.
All right, see you.
See you. Bye.
Well, that was great. Thank you. That's fun. It's so fun to. You have great stories. I have some stories. It's so fun to hear your story and go, wait, I managed a guy.
Exactly.
I remember we didn't say it on the podcast, but when I looked at how much that guy was getting paid.
Yes. I said, what? He doesn't do anything.
I'm thinking, literally, I think I was like, I don't know, 100,000. He was like 150,000 or 140,000 or something. I'm like, oh my God. I had another great opportunity I didn't mention too. I was at Sun, and I actually became the first program manager they ever had for the operating system because the company got big enough.
Yes.
But after I did that, it was for when we moved from JunOS to Solaris. But after I did that, they offered me the opportunity to manage real-time and security in the operating system. I knew nothing about real-time. I knew nothing about security. And so then they hand me a team from Sun Federal that was the real-time team. And, you know, and I'm like, I have to manage these guys. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. But you realize at that point, it's like, you know, I add value to helping them to be successful, you know, and I made some terrible mistakes. I tried to get the most senior guy to be the project leader, and it was a disaster. And I finally had to go back to there was only 3 guys. I took the most junior guy because he had the program management like skills, and I convinced them to let him run the project. And they thought I was nuts, you know, but you know, so you learn so much by managing things you don't fully understand. You have to depend on them. I can't tell them what to do.
No, you can't, right?
Yeah. So such
Dale,
great stories.
But you had a great career too, Dale.
I loved it.
You were in pretty amazing.
Look at the companies I got to work for. You know,
Sun was a dream company for me, and I couldn't get into Sun. I just
well, and I started out in the Spark Toolkit group. You know, no idea. I only got hired there because
the hottest company. Remember?
Yeah.
In the mid-90s, there were 2 companies, Sun and SGI.
I totally remember.
And Sun was amazing company. This
fun.
Employee, the first employee I got in Juniper was from Sun. Juniper was made of Sun and Cisco employees. Yeah,
and Cisco was funny because so many people come to Juniper and then they would go, "Oh, I have a job back at Cisco," and it was like back and forth. I'm like, it was like nobody would leave IBM and come to Sun and then leave Sun and go back to IBM. It would never happen.
Okay, I'll get into my pretty close now.
That was fun. I gotta go and you gotta go. So
I really enjoyed it, Dave.
That was great.
Thanks a lot for the opportunity, and we'll keep in touch.
You bet.
Bye.
All right, see you later. Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you heard, there are more podcasts available on developgreatmanagers.com, on iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you have time, please post a comment, or better yet, please write a review. Talk to you in the next podcast.